Hello, my friends. It's day 900 in the war in Ukraine, day 6 of the war in Russia. Doesn't that have a different ring to it, the war in Russia? Okay, again, 900 days since Russia invaded Ukraine. And if you're counting, that means we're in the 42nd 3-week special military operation, or if you want to look at it differently, we're just finishing the 300th 3-day special military operation. Okay, that's big story number one. Big story number two. Russia hasn't repelled Ukrainian forces near Kursk despite sending reinforcements. So they're using contracts. Those contracts are getting picked up as POWs left, right, and center. The Chechens that are over there are worthless, and I'll show you what that is in just a moment. So they're having to divert contract soldiers from other parts and experienced soldiers from around Donetsk and other places. Now, I watched Joe Blogs about 2 weeks ago, and he was talking about how it will take 28 million more Russian deaths to conquer Ukraine at the rate that they're going. So it's not that Russia's going to run out of troops anytime soon. If Russia wins, it's going to be because Ukraine doesn't have enough men. And if Ukraine wins, it'll be because Russia, well, it's not because of men, but it'll have an economic collapse or political collapse or something like that. And the situation in Russia right now is bringing us closer to one of those kinds of events. In fact, Joe Blogs just today, Russian central bank sharply hikes rates to 18%. Now, this happened a few days ago. He was just talking about this today, promising furthering tightening. 18% interest rates is like the second or third highest, I think, in the world right now. Okay. And then he talked about 2 weeks ago how Russia is doomed to lose. And the reason is if Putin wins, he can't afford it. And if he loses, he can't afford it. Okay, so what does that mean? So let's do the easy one first. If he loses, he can't afford it because now you have reparations and all the penalties and things that are going to happen to you because you've been waging this war and now you have to make good. But if he wins, he can't afford it. Not just because he has to rebuild the areas that he's taken, demine it and rebuild it and that kind of thing. And who knows if he would actually do that or just let those 4 oblasts in Ukraine suffer. Maybe he would. But he also has industry now predicated on the war machine. And if he diverts that industry that he's converted to a war footing now doesn't have the sales to keep doing what they're going to be doing. They'll have job displacement and all kinds of things. So he's in a real bind. Putin's safest course is to keep the war going, right? Now, what just happened over the last 6 days or so, however long, since the 6th of August is not really lending itself to that. In fact, Z bloggers report that Ukrainian troops have now entered Marik and Gordivka. Okay, Gordivka is over here on the west, and Marnikva is down here on the right. So they keep expanding the borders and pushing out and pushing forward. So yeah, and who's standing in the way? Well, it's folks like this. This is the leader, the commander of the Akhmat Special Forces. In a fight with Russia's Kursk region is a decisive battle, which will ultimately lead to Kiev's collapse. And I talked about that from the actual article this morning. But of course, he's leading TikTok warriors. This guy is shooting down a train tracks. He's not actually shooting at anything. He's just looking tough. And this guy, I mean, that's something. He's shooting with 2 rifles at the same time. Of course, he's not actually shooting at anything. He's just trying to look like Rambo, and it's not really working so well. Okay, so that's where we are. So the top Kadyrov commander says that Kadyrov's special forces aren't going to fight the Ukrainians in Russia because they're too elite for that. How about that? But what is happening is that they're just driving by and leaving those Russian conscripts without anyone. Here are Russian conscripts captured in Kursk region that complained that they're thrown to the slaughter. This guy is saying this: 3 escaped, 8 survived, the rest died. These are Russian conscripts. There were 2 encounters with Akhmat. The first one can hardly be even called an encounter. They were just driving past the forest belt to Sutsa and decided to shoot into the woods. Well, that's what they do for like TikTok and stuff. What the blank? It's not clear. There was nothing there. No prerequisites for shooting. There is no reason to be shooting there. The platoon commander did not care at all. Not a single attempt to restore communication, to contact, to do something was not made. Well, He's not Russian. Okay, and so that's the POW's testimony. More POWs, and I haven't showed these videos or these pictures of them before. More POWs. It's like I can't seem to not run into videos of POWs being picked up in Kursk, and I haven't showed any of these twice to my knowledge in the last like 4 days. I've just shown videos after videos. Okay, next big story. In an attempt to stage a provocation, the Russian army sets car tires ablaze in one of the cooling towers of the nuclear power plant in Russian-occupied Zaporizhzhia. So it looks absolutely terrible. Now, the Ukrainians are in Russia on their way toward the Kursk nuclear power plant, and maybe they'll decide to try to take it. I don't think like Pravda, I'm trying to remember if it was Pravda or RT, one of them saying that the Ukrainians are trying to take it. Maybe they're going to try to blow it up or something. They're not going to try to do that. They might try to take it and exchange it or shut it down so that it's hard for the people in that area to have power. But okay, you know that Russians are extremely afraid of what's going on in the Kursk region. When they do something like this, it's a typical KGB playbook on playing on Western fears. It only reaffirms that you cannot trust them on anything, and only their total defeat can establish something like normality in the East. Okay, so that's where we are with the nuclear power plant. Okay, meanwhile, this one grabbed my attention. Euromaidan Press talking about Germany must be prepared for war in 5 years, warned a commander of the Hamburg Regional Command, Michael Gies. Germany has begun developing an operational plan, Germany, anticipating that Russia may attack NATO countries by 2029. Okay, I think it is less likely now that the incursion into Kursk, or the invasion of Kursk, has actually taken place. But it's still something that we were talking about until about a week ago. Like, hey, look, NATO's next. NATO's next. You got to be aware of that. Okay, here's the actual article. And part of the reason that this is really interesting to me is because the British top general said something like this just about 3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago, that they have to be ready with magnified force in case this kind of thing happens. The commander of the Hamburg Regional Command, Navy Captain Michael Gies, stated, Germany must be prepared for potential military conflict within the next 5 years, but my internal clock as a soldier is ticking and tells me that in 5 years we must be socially resilient enough to withstand an external military threat, he said. And so that's pretty significant. Okay, my friends, I'm going to keep you up to date the best that I can. I know that this news about what's going on in Kursk is very important. So I've been working in overdrive, and I thank you all for the Patreon subscriptions and the buy me a coffees. I really do appreciate that because I have been working overdrive, but I promise while the entire pro-Ukraine community is refreshing their news feed like right now, just like I do regularly, I will keep you informed because this is really important what's happening right now. All right, my friends, thank you for the likes, the shares, the subscribes, and thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.